Hello everyone, my name is Celestina, and today I'm going to do a video on yeast and also tempering of chocolate. So first we're going to start with the yeast. Right here I basically just have active yeast in the bottom of this bowl. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to take the water, put the water in the yeast, and then see how it grows. Alright, so we're going to add about a fourth cup of water. That's between maybe 100 and 115 degrees, just because the yeast will grow better in this temperature. And also, just a teaspoon of sugar to this, just so it's more active. Stir it up. Just like so. And now there's a lot of yeast that is not good to the human body, that's actually toxic. But this yeast, the active yeast, the yeast used in baking, is obviously good for us, and it helps with the bread. And what it does is it gives the bread the pockets, like the cheese-like look to it, and also the chewy and the density factor of the bread also. Alright, let's take a look at how our yeast is doing. It's been about maybe 20 minutes. As you can see, it has actually grown. See that better? It's grown a little bit. It's starting to take form. It's starting to actually start to poof up. As you can see here, yeast is a microorganism that is in the fungi family, and as I said before, a lot of fungi is actually very harmful to the human body. But this form of yeast, this active yeast, is actually good. It makes that bread grow in rising, basically. It allows the bread to rise. Yeast is unicellular, mostly unicellular, 95%. So basically, the way it reproduces is asexually, meaning it doesn't need anything else but itself to basically reproduce using mitosis. Yeast is usually found in the bread we eat. It's a main ingredient in a lot of breads, and also in beer. And it uses a process called fermentation. Fermentation, it takes a little bit of time, but it's basically converting the carbohydrates to the carbon dioxides and the alcohol, which would be found in beer. Alright, another 10 minutes has gone by, and I really haven't seen a whole lot of production out of the yeast. I would blame this on the actual temperature of both the room and the water. Reason being is because yeast is very particular about what kind of environment it is in to basically reproduce. So for yeast, you want to keep it around 87 degrees Fahrenheit. And this is basically the yeast rule, because if you're not near that temperature, yeast is not going to produce as well or even produce at all. So because at the lower temperatures, it's going to kill the yeast, and it's going to slow that the creation and the asexual activity within the yeast. So key point is to make sure you stay at the 87 degrees Fahrenheit. And next I'm going to talk about tempering with the chocolate, and how a lot of candy makers use this process. Now for the second part of my final video, I'm going to be talking about tempering. And this is a process used in a lot of candy making and chocolate work. You know, making all the different types of chocolate out there, and chocolate candies. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to start with chocolate at room temperature state. Now, there are two types of crystals, crystallized fatty structures within chocolate. One that melts around 26 to 29 degrees Celsius, which is about 79 degrees Fahrenheit, and another one around 35 degrees Celsius, which is about 95 degrees Fahrenheit. And so what we want to do is we want to heat this up and melt both crystals. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start working with that chocolate. And I'm going to attempt to do that. Alright, so I melted the chocolate. You just putting it over some water in another bowl, which melted the chocolate. It took about 5 to 10 minutes after I got the water heated up. So what we're going to do, all I have right now is a spatula. We're just going to work with the chocolate. We're just going to bend it back and forth, bringing it back in together. And there's multiple different ways, and I'm obviously not doing it correctly because I'm not experienced at this. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to keep the chocolate in between that temperature, the 79 degrees Celsius and the 35 degrees Celsius. And what this is going to do is this is basically bringing that one the one form that melts at the higher crystallization, and bringing that back into a solid, and then keeping the other one as a liquid. And so this gives you the opportunity to basically work with the chocolate and see it's much more workable in this state than obviously it is in the solid state and when it's burning hot. It keeps its form, but it doesn't you can still work with it. It's movable, and this is very useful when bakers are trying to make a specific shape or style or even type of chocolate. And because of these crystallizations, these fatty forms within the chocolate, and keeping it within that range of temperature, they're able to accomplish exactly what they want. And that's why this tempering basically art form is very highly looked upon in the baking and chocolate making and candy making section of baking. Also, this is a way for air to get back into the chocolate because it was in that solid state. Obviously, oxygen cannot get in there very well, and this allows for those fatty parts of the chocolate to basically decompose, which these fatty parts can interfere with baking and other mixtures that you would want to mix this with. So we're just going to work a little bit. It's now starting to get a little harder to move around because it's starting to cool down. And obviously I don't have a marble top, so I had to use some sort of parchment paper because that's the only thing I have available right now. Which obviously the optimal thing to use here would be the marble table, because it wouldn't be moving around all over the place like this. And usually you have two spatulas that you work with, but at my disposal I only have one, so I'm just improvising here. I'm just messing with it, just making sure all of it's being exposed. Back in. Pretty consistent. And now this chocolate can be used with making whatever type of candies you want or putting in any sort of bakery. Alright, thank you.